Ghislaine Maxwell has agreed to testify before Congress. Do we know what the ins and outs of that look like? How is that going to play in with Todd Blanche? I've got a meeting that I'm going to be taking part in tomorrow to get some more information regarding the DOJ side of it. What are you hearing the latest is?
Well, we know that Ghislaine was given limited immunity to give up about 100 names to the DOJ. And this is being touted as a kind of client list substitute, at least in messaging. This appears to be a kind of backdoor way to try to get at the spider web of contacts that Epstein had. It's one of these stink bombs, the Ghislaine Maxwell testimony, ever since I think the Daily Mail broke about 2 weeks ago that Ghislaine wanted to testify to Congress, but that Republicans were blocking it. I think that the force of MAGA fury about this issue has made it politically difficult to say no to. Mike Johnson, the speaker, came out and quickly said that Republicans were not blocking it, and now there appears to be forward motion on it moving forward. We see Democrats who were trying to kind of take this issue and use it as a kind of wedge of the Trump White House against the base. We saw Jamie Raskin and the like trying to pick this up as a football, and now it looks like the Maxwell testimony in front of Congress will likely diffuse any of that energy, although there are lingering questions about why it is happening now, of course, whether or not Ghislaine may be getting a pardon and whether or not there may be some gerrymandering of the story that Ghislaine tells in order to try to make her own case for a pardon stronger. That is, will she shield certain aspects of Trump world from the story she tells, or will it really be the whole truth and nothing but the truth? We'll see.
And of course, we're now seeing, so she's made her offer, and I want people to understand what the latest is on this. This is just as of about 52 minutes ago. So Ghislaine Maxwell, through her lawyers, has put forward her potential offer. And of course, this is a Maxwell maximalism, if you will, list of demands. So she wants to grant a formal immunity for anything she testifies to under Congress, says the interview cannot happen at the correctional facility where she's serving her sentence. Oh, she wants to come to Capitol Hill. Of course she wants to. They're asking to prepare adequately for any congressional deposition and to ensure accuracy, we would require the committee's questions in advance, and is saying that the interview could only be scheduled after the resolution of her Supreme Court petition, where, of course, she's filed for an appeal. So they're making a splashy headline, but I'm not getting the impression that with demands like this, that this is something they're rushing into.
Yeah, me neither. I think that everyone is on every side of the political aisle is a little afraid of what she has to say if she's given a total unfettered podium to say it. There's, again, the question of the unreliable narrator here, given that the sword of Damocles hangs over her head in terms of, what is effectively a kind of life in prison. Whether or not she would be telling an honest story or giving honest answers, even under immunity. As I said, there's a clear goal, I think, by all parties involved in this. For Maxwell, it's to do a favor in exchange for a potential pardon or commuting of the sentence. For Republicans, it's to satiate the base and shield, I think, the Republican side of the Epstein story. And for Democrats, it's to try to find the dirt on Trump world, to use that for the 2026 midterms.
And of course, that's the goal. But at the same time, for a situation that's been litigated and relitigated so many times, I just have to say that I still don't, and I've said this throughout the entire, carnival that this has turned into, and that I don't think that if there was anything on Trump, they would have put it out already. It would have been out. We would have had it years ago. They wouldn't have had to make up all this Russia stuff. They wouldn't have had to, go to such great lengths to try to, quote unquote, get him on something. If they had an easy, political kill shot or political headshot like you could over something with Epstein. And you even hear President Trump being, I think, a little bit more cavalier about talking about this now when he says, yes, there was an island. Yes, Larry Summers from Harvard did go to the island. You should look into him. He's brought up other names. He says there's a list. I'd love to get that list, Mr. President, and all the information on that island. Reid Hoffman, so many others, because Ben's, the work that you've done, the work that we've done has really pushed this from a story that I think was this has been very grassroots driven all the way forward to now where you got the President of the United States on overseas trips being asked about that and in fact responding to it at length.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I always think of this as being a kind of mutually assured destruction kind of button. There's the sort of the, weapons of mass destruction element of the Epstein story, which is that if one side uses it against the other, there's something about the Epstein story that can always be used in a double-edged way. The fact is I think Bill Clinton has become kind of the go-to talking point for the Trump administration because he evidently went to the island, according to Trump, 28 times. We know that Epstein was in the White House visitor logs for the Clinton White House 17 times. We know that Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers testified that Jeffrey Epstein co-founded the Clinton Global Initiative. We know that Jeffrey Epstein shepherded Bill Clinton around Africa in 2002, right when his presidency ended, right when Clinton was setting up the Clinton Foundation. He was being essentially air chauffeured by Jeffrey Epstein from country to country. That being said, I do think there are considerable ties of Epstein to Trump world, not so much to Trump himself, although Trump is on the 1993 flight logs. But this was also a time when it was 13 years before Epstein was ever indicted the first time. And so I think that there's kind of a longer leash for things that far back in the distance, given that Trump is also on record having kicked Epstein out of his own Mar-a-Lago club. But the fact is they did travel in somewhat similar circles, from the kind of Roy Cohn network story to the Adnan Khashoggi strange tie-ins, where Khashoggi was a Epstein client and then Trump ends up buying Khashoggi's yacht. There's several relatively high-level folks around the Trump administration who have their own kind of bizarre intersections with the Epstein story, but they're not as direct as something like the Clinton flying to the island or, co-founding foundations together and the like. And the fact is, as you mentioned, that the case has been litigated and relitigated so many times, but the nature of that litigation is also under secrecy and seal. The Justice Department just tried to unseal grand jury evidence, and the court denied it. That case was run by Maureen Comey, daughter of James Comey, who set up the whole Russiagate affair. The same prosecutor who bizarrely handled or mishandled the Diddy prosecution, where you have another kind of Epstein kind of adjacent storyline. So the fact is, though, to me, pressure really can't relent on this until we have answers about Epstein's intelligence ties. It's so infuriating to me. The fact is Pam Bondi could walk next door to the Office of Public Responsibility. They did 21 months of investigation, we're told, looking into Epstein's intelligence ties. All we got out of that investigation was a footnote buried on page 169 of a 348-page report, footnote 244, and it doesn't answer anything relevant. I want all of the transcripts from that. I want all of the CIA Office of General Counsel. We don't even know if the CIA has run a name trace on Jeffrey Epstein to know even the CIA side of the story. And, we keep hearing, we'll get back to you on that. We'll get back to it. It takes 2 weeks for the CIA to run a name trace. And this has been an issue now. Pam Bondi's been in her chair for something like 4 or 5 months.